In the past, I've introduced how I view different commanders. I like to put them into categories that all kind of require different build methods. Value commanders are typically engines your deck wants to use and have the most flexible builds due to their generic use. They kind of just sit there and accrue value for your deck throughout the game, whether it be through damage, draw, token creation, or many other factors. Function commanders serve your deck as a specific function your deck might lack, or potentially be a final piece to the puzzle your deck is missing. Since your commander is a guaranteed spell, you can build around how many times you actually plan on casting it in a game. So function commanders are pretty neat since they kind of capitalize on this fact. Then there are true commanders, the kind that your entire deck and strategy are built around. The text they hold shows you exactly what they want to do and exactly what you should put in your deck in order to make the most out of it. Typically, these are the least flexible kinds of commanders as they almost box themselves in with how niche their abilities get sometimes. These three categories are great to talk about and rave about, but when you really sit down and look at different commanders, you notice that most commanders can fit into multiple categories, either due to their generic text or how the specific creature itself functions. Today, we'll be talking about how you can make the most out of these generic commanders, and we'll talk about how to use these categories most effectively when building and making boring commanders fun. If you guys are enjoying this content, please feel free to like and subscribe, and comment down below what your favorite boring commander is. And check out the Patreon in the link in my description, where you can get access to an extra video every single week, and depending on your tier, you can recommend a video and get a deck review that you've made yourself. If that interests you, I hope to see you there. The category a commander falls into is pretty broad. The cards aren't one-trick ponies in most cases, and can be used for different strategies. However, the more flexible these commanders get, they tend to be pretty generically good and usually fall mostly into the value category. If I had to put it into percentages, I'd say function and true commanders are about 30 and 20% of the pie, and value commanders take up the last 50%. This 50% is the kind of commanders that we'll be talking about today, the boring, generic value commanders. These commanders can be seen as quite boring, and usually are carried by their 99 because of their value style gameplay. I often see decks with these commanders could have 3 to 4 different commanders at the helm and not really change much about how the deck operates. Now, while this could be boring, we can take a step back and use this broadness to our advantage. If our commander has a generically good and basic ability, we have full control over what kind of deck we can make. You don't have to choose to build any particular way. You can build whatever and however you want. While function and true commanders might have more interesting abilities to offer up, they are not quite as flexible as the value commander. Of course, every commander has its place, unique approach, and off-meta 99s that they can run, but it's more tricky the more specific your text is. To experiment with different directions a commander might want to go in, you need to start asking yourself questions about the specific commander so we can start to broaden the horizons of what we might want to do with this commander. The first thing you should ask is, what can my commander do? For this example, I have Marchesa. Marchesa can draw me cards consistently by providing me with the Monarch. Then, in case for whatever reason the Monarch is taken away from me, Marchesa can also be a token generator, and a powerful token generator at that, something with Death Touch and haste, so it can immediately attack and hopefully get me the Monarch back if I need it. So this commander is so generically valuable that it can do two things, token generation and card draw. So this could be good in a ton of different decks, which makes it super broad as a commander. It can do a lot of things, and it really is reliant on the 99 to decide what it wants to do. That's what's great about some of these valuable commanders, is that a lot of them are just blank canvases. The next question you should probably ask is, what can't your commander do? For this example, I have Ishai. Ishai cannot do anything. Ishai just stands there and gets bigger. Ishai cannot draw me cards. Ishai cannot ramp for me. Ishai does not really remove things unless you count him as a blocker or an attacker. Ishai just sits there and is a distraction for my deck. Because of this, that's what he needs to be used as in the deck. Simply a distraction. Something that can throw my opponents off and get their eyes off of my actual threat, which is Tana. That's how I utilize his value to the maximum ability. He's not going to draw me a ton of cards. He's not going to do anything except draw eyes towards him, as he is a really, really big threat. And every once in a while, we can give him double strike to one-shot somebody. But other than that, Tana is the real engine of that deck. The next question you should probably ask is, how would I use this commander in a 99, and does that change when it's the commander itself? For this example, I have Samut. Now, in a typical Samut deck, I have a lot of ways to enable my creatures with haste. This is so that Samut can continuously draw me cards throughout the game as a value commander. If cards are entering and they have haste and I'm able to swing out, the haste enablers really help me out. However, Samut is also just as good in a deck like Jetmir. And Samut changes just a little bit because in Jetmir I focus more on tapped and attacking creatures. They come in, enter tapped and attacking, and they still meet that threshold of entering the battlefield that turn. However, Samut is now a really great source of card draw in my Jetmir deck, which normally lacks a lot of card draw. So Samut's role definitely changes a little bit, although its still primary source is to draw me a bunch of cards. And the last question you should ask is what your commander might want to do. For this example, I'll use the commander that we use today, Elis Ilkor. Just by looking at the text, it really kind of wants to have a ton of creatures enter the battlefield and a ton of creatures die. This is typical for an aristocrat strategy, but we can find ways to modify this with different generic abilities. So we'll ask these 4 questions now. What can my commander do? Elis Ilkor can damage the table quite a bit and can gain me a lot of life. So a lot of ETB triggers and a lot of death triggers. How can we utilize that the best we can possibly do? Now, what can it not do? It's not very good at drawing cards. It's not really good at removal. It's not really great at ramp. So we'll have to make up for that in the 99. Then lastly, if I were to use this in the 99, does that change when it's the commander? In some ways, yes. I have one strategy and build that actually really relies on the ETBs. Whereas if Elis was in the 99 normally, it would just be a generic value aristocrats piece. Now you can definitely build Elis as an aristocrats commander, but because of the generic value that it provides, you can go in different directions. What does the commander want to do? It wants a lot of creatures to enter and a lot of creatures to die. So how many ways can we do that? And how many different creative ways can we go to maximize this ability out? Today, I have 3 builds of this exact commander to show you the true flexibility of boring value commanders. The first direction I thought to bring this deck in is with X spells. You ramp as fast and as hard as you possibly can, you make a ton of tokens through create X token cards, you gain a ton of life, and you swing out your army to destroy the table. And the great thing is, if they die, you hurt your opponent. If they don't, you still hurt the opponent. Either way, they are in for a world of hurt. This X-Spell tokens deck is very much the generic value deck that we're looking for. Many other Orzhov legends could easily take the place of LS, but we use LS for the life gain and drain that it provides. A simple yet neat army building deck. Ashnod's Altar is a must in this kind of deck, as you can use one army to feed the next. Overall, with this deck, you're going to gain a bunch of life, you're going to drain your opponents, and you just got to make a ton of tokens. And you kind of just play the game on autopilot. The next direction I decide to take it in is a combo deck. Now, similar to our previous Bartolome deck that I've shown, we can use LS in this spot also. It's essentially a 4-card combo, and you can have the sack outlet in the command zone, or you can have the damage payoff in the command zone. Either way, the deck only changes a little bit. The only real changes I decided to make were I put more card advantage into the deck, replacing any aristocrats payoffs with sack outlets, and artifacts with card draw. I've taken all of those out as there's no way to sacrifice these artifacts anymore. This deck uses LS as a function commander. It's here to help us as a piece in our combo that we want to set up. You're looking to assemble the combo as quickly as possible. You're looking to fill up the graveyard and reanimate stuff with Luris. And after maybe 5 or 6 turns, you'll have your combo win. Now, the last direction I looked to bring LS in was more of a true commander style. Slow, grindy, and good old aristocrats. LS is not a true commander by any means, but if you look at the actual text itself, it looks like aristocrats. And if it looks like aristocrats, it probably is aristocrats. There isn't much to say about this deck besides the fact that you want to grind games out to a crawl. You're trying to play some stacks pieces, you're trying to get a lot of creatures onto the board, and slowly but surely as the game goes on, you're looking to slowly drain your opponents through LS's ability or through other Blood Artist type effects. The goal is to outlast your opponent, and LS allows you to get a lot of life gain throughout the game and drain your opponent slowly but surely. early. You want to outlast your opponents by using your creatures as fodder and sacrificing them to victory. Boring and generic commanders do not have to just be a replaceable value piece you let sit there and do nothing. A blank canvas is boring until you bring it to life with your own imagination. Use their generic value and find new angles to make something completely unique and interesting. And that's when you will find true creativity. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and comment down below what your favorite value or boring commander you love playing. Decks like this are always super fun to build, as they really are just a blank canvas, and you can choose whatever you want to build around. It's really quite fun. I want to take a moment now to thank my patrons. Thank you, George Vazanelis, Philly123, Chris Smith, Son of Zygote, Ruby Storm, Raphael DDL, Hio, Justin, Peachy Star, Zedok, and Aaron Fisher. Thank you all so much for your continued support. It truly means a lot. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all next time.